So let's go ahead and give a shout out to all of our Zoom people real quick. So welcome Paul, Andrew, David, Amanda, Bethany, Michelle, Bianca, Rebecca, Lori, and someone just got covered up here with the chat. Go away, chat.
Thank you.
Matrona, welcome, welcome. Yeah, go ahead and turn your cameras on. Everyone can say hi to you here in person. You can probably see yourself on screen because it's behind you in my camera view. It's great to have you guys joining us virtually on Zoom today. Got a good crowd here in the house, and we do have coffee here. Can't share that over Zoom. I'm sorry about that, guys. Welcome. I'm going to turn this meeting over to Peggy. Eric.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first in-person LSIN meeting since I believe February of 2020. So thank you all for being back. We are very excited. And also, I think we have Brady. Thank you so much to the Ashley team, and we'll give you a little shout out at the end, but thank you so much for hosting us today. It is wonderful to actually be back in person with some of you and virtually. But I know we're a couple minutes behind, so I will get going quickly. I do have a little blue bag over here, so if you have not put in a business card, feel free to come over and stick a card in. We have two little raffles for the end. But otherwise, I will introduce our speaker for today. Is Joshua Hummer. He is an attorney with an expertise in wills, trust, and estate planning. He works with our wonderful Pam Reynolds, which I know most of you know, and also does elder planning, elder law, and has offices in Ashburn and Winchester. So I will turn it over to Josh. Thank you so much.
And I'm okay to take my mask off, right? I'm not gonna get kicked out of the building or anything. That's right. It's really a privilege to be with you all today, and welcome to the folks on Zoom and Facebook as well. That's great. So we're doing Facebook and Zoom. Wow. That's very impressive, Derek. Well, I am thrilled to be here and to have been asked specifically to speak at this very monumental event, the first in-person LSIN meeting. And you guys picked me out of everybody, and they just did it last night. So it really is, it's fun to be here. And I'll try to make it as interesting as I can. When Peggy called me up and she said, Josh, if you could please come. Do I need to say about the mic? Okay. She said, Josh, if you could please come and talk to us about taxes. She said the group would really like a detailed analysis of the 1040 form and all the different options. I said, how long do we have? And she said a couple hours. So I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to do a deep dive here. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about estate planning and elder planning, what we call elder planning. I don't think anybody else calls it that, and our approach to it, our team's approach, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. And do I have to switch over? Or, yeah. While Derek's doing that, I want to show you guys a picture. Not that picture. Yeah, I don't think anybody needs to see that picture.
You have speaker notes that you want to see?
No. Can you set it up so I can see the preview or no?
Right here.
Gotcha. All right. So we got to see how the clicker works. Oops, too far. There we go. So this is a picture I want to see you all. By the way, can I share this on Zoom or?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Let me go ahead and start that.
Okay. Well, while Derek is sharing it on Zoom, I don't know how many of you can see this, but this is a picture of my son Pierce. I have 4 children. He is my third son, not my third son, my third child, second son, and he is a handful. And if you can't tell from the picture, for those of you who are on Zoom, he is actually kneeling on our kitchen table, and he is icing cookies. And he has more icing on himself than he does on the actual cookies. And there's 2 things that you don't see here that I want to point out, and then I'll tell you why I'm showing you this picture. The first is you can't see the rest of the kitchen. And the reason you can't see the rest of the kitchen is it is an absolute disaster. There are pots and pans and bowls and measuring cups and everything all over the place. And my wife won't let me show that picture. She's not really happy about me showing you this one, but she definitely won't let me show you the picture of the sink with dishes piled everywhere. The other thing you don't see is my oldest child, whose name is Scarlett, and she is nowhere to be found. And this is important because 3 hours earlier, Scarlett came to me with a request, and she said, "Dad, can I make cookies?" And I made a mistake. I had work to do. I said, "Sure, just make sure you clean everything up." Well, as you can see, that didn't happen. It was an absolute disaster. And I immediately went looking for Scarlett and had a little chat with her about the importance of not leaving a mess. And then myself ended up cleaning up the kitchen. Why do I show you this picture? Well, in my experience, when someone does not have a good plan for their aging or for passing, what it's doing to their loved ones is it's like leaving them a messy kitchen. There is stuff everywhere. And unlike my kitchen where I knew where everything went, most of the time when somebody passes or when they become incapacitated and they don't have a plan, it's like somebody else has to walk into their kitchen and there's a mess and they don't know where anything goes. And that's what we deal with on a regular basis, or at least what I spent the first part of my career dealing with, was trying to deal with other people's messy kitchens. And so I was a litigator. That means I went to court and I argued about what wills meant and trusts meant. And I argued about in fights between siblings over their parents' assets. And we would deal with guardianships and conservatorships, decisions about incompetency when they weren't contested, but the worst ones when there was a contest. So when someone had lost their capacity and their loved ones were fighting over who was going to control their assets. And I'll tell you, in my experience, and I've experienced a lot of different areas of the law, the only thing that's worse than seeing two siblings go at it after their parents' money is a divorce or a child custody case. Watching family members fight over money is awful. After death, it's really bad. While they're still alive is beyond heartbreaking. And so what our team does is we try and put in place plans to avoid messy kitchens, the metaphor of a messy kitchen like this. And I want to tell you guys just a little bit about how we do that today. So again, it won't be a couple hours, Peggy. I will be brief, and if somebody in the back wants to start flagging me down when I start going too long, feel free, I won't be offended. Make sure I got the slides. Yes, no, maybe? What do I have to go back to? Thank goodness Derek is here. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is what's called estate planning, but estate planning is just a fancy word for preparing for two events. One is preparing for death, the other is preparing for incapacity. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, and again, I'll try and make it as interesting as I can. With estate planning, as I mentioned, it's a plan for both. And as I mentioned earlier, what our planning and what we try and do is to help avoid the crisis. Now, for many of you who work in elder care, you probably live in the crises, right? How many people come and they're already in a position where if they would just gotten to you 6 months before, you could have done so much more to help them. Well, what our goal is to hopefully avoid that. Let's see what my next one is. And it's based on outcomes. And I want to pause here and I want to tell you another quick story. I like to tell stories. And you guys have to listen to me. So it's kind of a win. No, I'm just teasing. But when I was about 4 years ago, when I was starting out in estate planning, I had one of those moments in time that you realize when it's happening, you're never going to forget. And it happened to me as I was sitting with a dear client. And I had just done a bang up job of putting together her estate plan. I was going to save her hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. And I knew it, and I was telling her, and I was very proud of myself. And I was just going through how much money she was going to save and how awesome I was and how I did all this for her. And have you ever had a conversation where you felt like the other person really wasn't into it as much as you were? It happened to me a lot in college when I was dating. So it just, you could feel that she was there, but she had other things on her mind. And so eventually I stepped out of my own egotistical focus and said, and we'll call her Patty, Patty, you don't really seem too excited about this. Is something bothering you? And she started crying, which is never a fun thing to experience in a conversation. But she started sharing with me how her son, actually her daughter-in-law, and she had recently had a disagreement. And her son had sided with her daughter-in-law, and she had not had a chance to see her grandchild in 3 months because they were withholding this grandson from the world. And as I'm sitting there listening to this, I recognize two very important things. One is there was nothing that I could do in that moment to help that, right? I'm an attorney. I like to think I could fix most people's problems. There was nothing I could do there. And two, the money savings was inconsequential to her compared to the relationships. And that moment in time was so impactful for me because it taught me a huge lesson, and that is that people are more important than money. Now that's easier to say than it is to actually apply. But from that point on, we reinvented our entire approach to this planning for death and incapacity to start with people. And so when we say it's based on outcomes, what I mean there is that the key is relationships. So when we're talking about someone who's preparing for incapacity or preparing for death, the goal is not just that they have the maximum amount of money. The goal is not just that they save the most on taxes. The goal is not monetary at all. The first goal is that they have good relationships, that the people who are important to them, the relationships that are important to them are strengthened as they go through that and not hurt. And when I looked back on my own experience, and certainly Pam with her experience, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most devastating things when you have this crisis occur, yes, there is downside. People, they go through physical issues, they go through financial issues they wouldn't have to go through. But when you have the relational destruction, when you have families that are torn apart, when you have people that are uncared for, that to me is the most devastating thing. And what I found is I started being a little bit less self-centered and started asking clients, everybody has this at their core in terms of what is really important to them. If you really listen to people and talk to them, or at least the clients that I've managed to do, this is the fundamental thing that they are all concerned about deeply. And so we started focusing on this. And we even trademarked the name relational estate planning to go with the idea of we start with the relationships. We start with the people who are important, and then everything else factors into that and supports that. All right. So if we take this idea that at least is novel to us attorneys, that people are the most important thing, what does it look like to prepare for someone's future, to prepare for incapacity and prepare for death, if their relationships are the most important thing? If that is the goal, of preserving that, of doing good to other people, of focusing on what's truly important to them, what does that sort of plan look like? And we came up with these 5 goals here for relational estate planning. The first goal is to protect and provide for loved ones. So that's making sure that other people around you are okay if something happens to you, right? So you're not going to leave someone in a lurch, someone unprepared for if something happens to you. The second one is to avoid conflict. And how do you do that? How do you really think about when you're gone or when something happens to somebody, bringing your family, your loved ones together as opposed to causing them to hate each other? The third is to leave a legacy. And the idea here is this is a way of benefiting, not just financially, but benefiting those people around you, preserving special memories. And then 5 goes back to what I started with, not leaving a messy kitchen, easing burdens. So when we approach this aspect of planning for incapacity and planning for death, we do it with these 5 goals in mind. Now, these are not the goals for everybody. Some people focus on one goal and none of the other ones, a couple, others are more important for different people. But we try and encourage folks to think about these goals in terms of how they're approaching it. I don't know how much, I'll do this quickly. The last time I did this presentation, we had a little bit more time, so I could do some questions, but we'll just do a quick poll here. So it's not just you guys having to listen to me talk. Give me your best guess. Which of the following do you think we've seen a family fight over in the last year? A small river rock, B, a ceramic pig bought at a flea market, and C, a blue recliner that was too broken to sit in and Salvation Army would not take it. They literally said, do not bring that here. We don't want that. So if you think, and this is what we have seen, we personally, our team has seen people fight over in the last year. So just out of curiosity, how many of you think it's A? We got one, Derek's brave in the back. How many B? All right, got a couple more. And then C, got a few more there. Yeah. D, and yes, Gary is correct. It's a little bit of a trick question. We've actually seen people fight over all of these in the past year. And when I say fight, I mean pay an attorney over $400 an hour to go to court and argue about each one of these things, right? So the point being, conflict is much more prevalent than most people realize. And yes, I did have a judge ask me, Mr. Hummer, is this case about a ceramic pig? And I had to tell him, yes, it was, and explain that it was, we were not there because I wanted to be there, but because the other side was demanding it. Anyhow, answer all of the above. So we've gone over the goals. I'll briefly talk about the tools. What do you do? How do you accomplish this? How do you take someone's life and help them put in place a plan that is going to accomplish these 5 goals, that is going to be focused on relationships? And we use 8 tools. The first tool you've probably heard of is a will. Everybody knows what a will is. It's a contract that you make with yourself that gets enforced by a judge after you have passed. The second tool is what we call an estate guide and inventory. How many of you have heard of an estate guide and inventory? A couple of folks, okay. It's actually a practical document that lays out instructions for a couple of things. One is what you have. So it's nice to have a list of what is there, right? Do you have an account over here? Do you have life insurance with Gary? That's a little free plug for you there, Gary. Do you have bank accounts at Wells Fargo? Do you have a retirement over here? I can't tell. Well, I guess I should pause here. How many of you have heard of the mailbox game? Ever heard of the mailbox game? You probably haven't. It's kind of an inside joke for us as state administration attorneys or for people who implement wills and trusts. The mailbox game is not a game and it's not fun. But it's what we do when somebody dies and they don't have an estate guide inventory or a list of assets. We have to wait by the mailbox and see what statements come in to figure out what they actually owned. Now, can anybody see a problem with this in today's modern world? Go ahead, shout it out. That's right. It does take time. Online. How many of us receive paper statements now? It's all electronic. And what if somebody doesn't have access to your email where the statements go? It's really tough. I actually, it's not a claim to fame, but I ended up suing Apple 3 times. And the story was that this poor 16-year-old girl had suddenly lost her dad. And he, on his Apple account, had all of their family photos. And she said, Josh, that's all I want. I don't want the TV, I don't want the car. My dad had a bunch of photos of us. And like many people in our generation, I don't need to link myself in with all of you guys, much younger than me, stored all of their photos on Apple. So we called up and asked nicely, hey, Apple, here's what happened. Of course, you don't actually do that, right? You submit a form to an online thing and they say no. So I got the local judge to enter an order telling Apple to give us the stuff. They still said no. They said, we want X, Y, and Z. Eventually, long story short, we finally got into it. And I have to be honest with you, it wasn't really because of the lawsuits. It was because we guessed the password after guessing the username. Actually, they gave us the username and then we guessed the password. So having the practical document that lists out where everything is, logins, passwords is huge. And having a list of trusted contacts is very important as well, particularly for incapacity. Are there people that will help your family and loved ones actually implement what needs to be done? Ethical wills are another fun one. And I don't know, I may have slides on all of these later. If I do, I'm just going to go for time's sake. But how many of you have heard of ethical wills? Anyone here? Nobody? Okay, in Zoom, I can't see you, it's not set up, but if you're raising your hand, I apologize. An ethical will is similar to a last will and testament in that it's designed to leave something behind. But the last will and testament is designed to leave behind money, finances. An ethical will is designed to leave behind values and experiences. And it is a tremendous way of encouraging relationships, of telling people what they meant to you, of providing support and encouragement in difficult times. And when you think about it, and it's a little bit morbid and maybe even seems a little self-centered, but if you can think about it for yourself or for your loved ones, when somebody dies or they go through a serious event where they're incapacitated or disabled, it is very difficult emotionally on everybody around them. And you guys have probably all seen this. We see it when people pass all the time. I get to sit with somebody who's lost a loved one probably 2 or 3 times a month. And it's never fun. You can tell that they're hurting. And you can't solve that for your family, for your loved ones. But one thing you can do is let them know that you love them, and you're grateful for them. And we see this used, I've seen it used several times when somebody in their teenage years or younger has lost a parent suddenly, unexpectedly. And there has been just a simple letter. And I can tell you that simple letter is far more valuable to their family and to their kids than all of the rest of the stuff that we do. So we strongly encourage everybody to do those. I'll also add in, they're not particularly easy to write, but they're a wonderful tool. Trust are another tool, which you all are probably familiar with. A trust is a way of extending control over things after you're gone. And there are times that that's very helpful. Beneficiary debt designations are another thing that we talk to folks about. Gifts and memories list is what used to be called a property memorandum. We renamed it because we didn't like the name. So we call it a gifts and memories list. And it is a way to leave specific items to people along with a story about why they were important. So instead of just dumping all of the junk that someone doesn't want on their kids, which is what we see happening a lot, and they can't understand why their children don't want their furniture from IKEA, picking out specific things that have emotional value and explaining why that's important. So this is my granddad's rifle that he used hunting whenever, and I want you to have it because I know you like this certain type of thing. Planned giving is something else that we use and we find is very rewarding to the folks who do think about it. Frequently with most of our clients, we see many of them just leaving their assets to their children, and there's nothing wrong with that, except when you realize that a lot of these folks are dying in their 90s and they're leaving all their money to their kids in their 70s who are already retired. And so the impact that's happening with the funds is fairly minimal when they could take that money and make a tremendous impact on a nonprofit or a charitable organization. So we always encourage people to think about that. And then the last thing is funeral arrangements and directives. I'll tell you, it's not fun to plan your own funeral. However, it is a tremendous gift to your loved ones if you do. If you can have everything laid out and they can just show up and know it's all done, that is one less difficult thing that they have to deal with while they're grieving for someone. So those are the tools that we all use. I'm going to skip forward through. I've got some individual slides here, but I went through most of these things already. I will pause here just out of curiosity. How many of you think, anybody want to guess what the percentage is of US citizens who have a will, which is the most basic form of estate plan, right? If you have an estate plan, you have a will. If you don't have a will, you haven't done any planning. How many of you think 18% of US citizens have a will? Got a good number, 32%. A few more, 49%. Anybody think half the people have a will? You're right. It's actually 32% of Americans have a will, which is higher than I expected, but lower than it should be. All right, so trusts have a number of things there, and I'll avoid going into all the details here as well. We already talked about the estate guide inventory, the ethical will. I'll skip that question because I don't want to use up too much of your time here. Gifts and memories list we already went through. I will pause just because many of you work in the elder sphere and note that the tools for relational estate planning in the realm of incapacity are a little bit different. There we use a power of attorney, advanced medical directive. We still use the estate guide and inventory because when you have someone who's incapacitated and someone else is having to help them, they need to know what they've got, right? They need to know what assets they have, insurance. And so this needs to have long-term insurance, long-term care insurance in it. If there's any, it needs to have normal property and casualty, other things in there. And then one thing that we've started doing a lot, or not a lot, one thing that we've started doing is using corporations, LLCs, and trusts as a way to remove assets from the control of someone who is making poor decisions. So that's a whole nother topic. And if you all are interested in hearing more about that, I'll be happy to come back at some point in the future if I'm invited. Financial power of attorney, again, I won't go into all these in detail here. If you'd like a copy of the slides, let me know. But I did want to leave you with 3 estate planning tips that we give to everybody. So these hopefully, or these are, I don't want to say they're a summation, but these are what I would say if have somebody who's on the fence in terms of whether they need to do this or not, keep these in mind. Tip number 1 is just do it. 32% of people have wills, but so many people have not put together an appropriate plan. So I'm stealing from Nike here. Just do it. Done is better than best. We have had some folks who passed while they were in the estate planning process with us. That's very painful. Fortunately, we have sent them multiple letters saying, hey, it is done. But I'll tell you, probably a third of the people that I meet with who have had a loved one die tell me they were working on redoing their will. They said they were going to do it, and they just never got to it. So done is better than best. Tip number 2, this is who we are as a firm and as a team. Think relationally. Start with who. Who is important? Who is important to them? What do they want to accomplish? Last quick story here. I had a gentleman walk into my office, and he was very wealthy, and he wanted to talk about taxes. And I launched into another, I guess, like I do more than I would like to, explanation of all the wonderful things I could do for him about taxes and how we could save money here and do this here. And he was all excited about it. And then I finally said, so what, after we do all this tax saving stuff, what do you want to do with all with the money that's left? He said, oh, I want to leave it all to UVA. And I said, you don't have a tax problem. So you start with who. And the reason he doesn't have a tax problem is because we donate money to nonprofits, they don't pay taxes. So he left all his money to UVA, they didn't pay taxes. All the fun stuff I was going to do for him didn't matter. So think relationally, start with who, not what. And we find that solves a lot of the complexity and oftentimes overrides some of the what would normally be financial considerations. And tip number 3, plan holistically. Don't forget about the practical and the emotional issues. Honestly, I tell people the will is great, but if you're going to do the greatest estate plan and trust and everything else, and you're a hoarder and your house is a mess, it's still going to be a disaster for your family, for your loved ones. So you have to have the best plan. You want to make sure you have those in there. If you are interested in learning more about us and our process, go to our website, sign up for our monthly newsletter. I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's pretty good. Feel free to email us at the email there. We have a book that tomorrow, it's coming out tomorrow, called Fearless. It is a description of our philosophy about estate planning and goes into a lot more information there. So thank you all for having me. Always delightful to be here and see Peggy and Eric and all of you. And want me to stay up and answer questions? I will. Yes. Okay. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. And if you're on Zoom and have a question, I'm not sure how it will work. Okay. Derek has it. Derek is on it. If you don't, I'll be happy to go sit down in my seat as well. Any questions? All right, that was either very clear or very confusing. So I'm going to think it was very clear. Thank you guys. Oh, yes.
You deal with like multi-state estates. Do you have to get involved with other people in other areas? I'm sure there's not a lot of people, especially about county properties.
Yes, the answer is yes. And where they live determines the laws that apply. So their primary residence. So if their primary residence is here in Virginia or West Virginia or Maryland or DC, we can help them. If they just own a home here and they live in Florida, we would find an attorney in that state who knows what they're doing and send them down there. But then, yeah, yep. So it goes based on where they actually live. Yes, ma'am.
Key question. So a lot of my clients, timing. So how many visits, it all depends on how much they have.
No.
Like, no,
Yeah, sorry, I didn't. Should.
can you give me like a range of, I would say, let's just go an hour, 2 hours, what is that look like?
In terms of the timing?
Yes.
Okay.
How much time does it take?
Well, it really depends on them. We have some clients, and the first step is for them to do an introductory call. Most of the time, that is with Pam. And there's some clients who, after a 30-minute call, or this is what I want, I know what I want, and they're on a rail to getting it done. And it probably normally takes about 6 to 8 weeks for us to process everything, send them the drafts, get comments back, and get them in to sign it. We do have folks, I don't know how often, Pam, but once a month, once a quarter, somebody will call up and say, hey, I'm having this surgery, or I'm going on a trip, and we'll expedite that for them. And we do occasionally have someone who's in the hospital, and a couple of times a year we'll, do a turnaround in a day or two if somebody's, their life expectancy is very short. Is usually what it takes, and that also depends on them, and that's if they're moving along promptly. We have people who will go 6 months while they're thinking about the documents and getting back to us. That's not my fault. That's not Pam's fault. That's on.
Like, we're trying to just do basic, and then they can do amendments to that as time to come. Sometimes we try to just do basics, you
Yeah.
have something down, and then as we need to change it or think about it more, we can get that done. People are like, oh, think about it for 20 years.
That's
And
right.
I'm trying to get them in to, if I say, oh, we got an hour, talk to Pam. Done quickly.
That's exactly right. And when you say done, the initial us getting the information and getting started can be done, and then they have to look at the documents. And I would encourage them to read them, but if they just say these look great, the people named are the ones I want, sign it. Yeah, 2 hours total, right? Over an 8-week period is what their time would be. So it can be fairly quick. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you do DNRs as part of the will or?
That's a really good question, and the technical answer is no. So a DNR, or do not resuscitate order, is something that a physician has to sign, and so we cannot prepare those. There's a form they use from the state that they can get those. We do, however, when we do an advanced medical directive, we will authority for the agent to consent to a DNR, and that's very important. But if they do want that, that's something that they'd have to go through their physician, hospice, or somebody to get. All right. Thank you all. And
Are you talking?
All right, guys, thank you, Josh, for stepping in for us today. So some of you might have noticed that Josh was not on our schedule when we sent out the invitations. We did have another person speaking, although the person, our contact, was no longer with that company and we couldn't get in touch with them. And I was freaking out last night and called Pam and Josh and I said, guys, can you do this? And they were like, absolutely. So thank you so much for stepping in. And on that note, I just want to recognize the LSIN board for you guys, for those of us that are here, because it really is a lot of work, especially when you have little hiccups like that. Like, what do we do now? We have this whole meeting tomorrow. How are we going to get a speaker? So if you are on the board, if you can just stand, I just want to thank you guys. All you do. We even put a happy hour together last month. That was awesome. And we had a great time. So we do a lot of great stuff, and it's not just work. We do fun stuff too. So thank you, LSIN board. Also, we do have an event coming up in October. It is a SAGE event. So those of you who are not familiar with SAGE, that is an LGBTQ, I can never say those all together, awareness for senior living, knowing what it's like to be LGBTQ in a senior living environment. So we're going to have a speaker talk to us about that in October. So I'm really excited about that. It is something that we have to think about whenever there's someone's different. It really does make a difference for who they are and how they're cared for as they age. I also am so excited that we are back in person, right?
Yeah.
Like that is for who knows how long, I don't know. Maybe this will be the first and last one, I can't say. But thank you to the Ashley for hosting us today. Brady, do you want to say something about the Ashley or? No, he does not. Okay, so the Ashley, you know, for those of you who are part of LSIN knows that they have been so gracious to us through the years and have hosted us in their dining room. And we limited our numbers today just to be safe, especially with the Delta variant on the rise. So thank you everybody for signing in and wearing your masks and all that stuff, because we want to keep not only us safe, but we want to keep the residents safe. So just a reminder, no lingering in the hallways and talking here and then get the heck out. So, all right, that's what I'm saying, because, you know, that was what we want to do. Next month, if we are going to be meeting in person, Ann Ashley over at the Hustler has offered to utilize some space just to see how that works a little bit different. They have, no offense to the Ashley, but a much better parking situation. So we're gonna check that out next month if we are still doing the hybrid meeting. So just a heads up on that. And I do see a couple faces here. So if you are new, can you stand up and just give a quick introduction? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. Yep.
Jay Wells, I'm the Comfort Keepers in Bryan, Virginia.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Is that it? Okay. And also, if someone has an event, we do have a little extra time to talk about. If you have an event, if you want to just stand and then kind of just share what your event is. And Derek, can you monitor the Zoom people? Any events coming up? Ann?
So again, over at Kessler Heights, and we are doing an ice cream social on Sunday, September 26th. I'll post it or send it to you or whatever on the LSIN Facebook page.
Okay.
But it's going to be a Cold Stone Creamery kind of idea. And if we have to deal with Delta variant, we've got Plan B. But otherwise, I'll put it up on Facebook. You guys can come down, and we're going to be mixing ice cream together.
Sweet. All right, yeah, thank you, Ann. And I'm gonna back up because I totally forgot to introduce our spotlight speaker today, probably because they were just speaking. It is Josh Hummer's office, but I'm gonna have Pam come up and she's gonna talk to you about the firm, what they do, even though you just heard all about it. I'm so sorry for that. But my memory kicked in.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pam Reynolds, and as Peggy said, it's really great to be back in person and see all of you. It's so different, though, from what 80, 100 people downstairs in the dining room for years. And again, thank you to the Ashley for that. But a little strange, but still great to see all of you guys. And for those of you who might not know me or people I haven't connected with in a long time, I don't have a sales pitch for you today, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how I ended up where I am now. Many of you worked alongside of me for upwards of a decade as I built a home healthcare company, Allegiance, that I sold in 2019. So basically, after that, I was 37 years old and said, what am I going to do when I grow up? So trying to figure out how can I go take the skill sets and the knowledge that I have from the long-term care industry and find a way to get upstream to solve what I saw as the biggest problem, which is that people don't know what they don't know and they're not prepared for the future. And I think, as Josh said earlier, most of us have dealt with people in crisis all of our career. So in senior living, when I did that for almost a decade, and then in home health care, 9 out of 10 calls was a crisis, maybe 10 out of 10 most months. And that's just heartbreaking to me. I just got really tired of being in that position of having to help people clean up the messes. And oftentimes it was too late, you know, to do a whole lot. So that's what I started thinking, and tried to figure out a way to get upstream and to help people prepare better and, you know, be educated and know what they need to know to have a better aging and end of life experience. And so started talking with Josh about that, my attorney and friend, and that's what he was trying to do, right? So with the whole estate planning and elder law, and he had big visions for how he could do that with his firm. It just seemed to be a really good alignment and an opportunity for me to find a vehicle to do that and to help people prepare better for their future. So that's why I made the career change, and that's why I am where I am now. And I hope to be able to have a big impact on people's lives as they're planning for their own futures and their parents' futures, and really have a better aging experience. So that's why I'm here now. And I just wanted to emphasize, Josh did a really good job explaining relational estate planning, but I wanted to highlight that the other side to it, the other part of the relational aspect, is working together as a team and a community to support seniors and their families. Because again, they don't know where to start. They don't have the resources. So that's up to us. And that's a big reason why I'm still involved in LSIN. I've been a part of LSIN since 2006, I think. Been on the board for 7 years, and thank God you're the president now, Peggy. So thank you for that. But I remain involved, and I want to stay connected with you guys and reconnected after COVID, because we're going to need you. We need the resources. It is relational. It's relationship with the client, relationship with all of you guys, to be able to give them all the resources and tools that they need. So thank you. And if we haven't connected with you or we haven't had a conversation, let's do that. And yeah, thanks for having us.
To those of you who don't know, you know, if you sponsor LSIN and you get your information up on our website, we also have just created a digital version or digital magazine so that you can download it, send it to your clients and folks. You get in that digital magazine, and it's just all the people in Loudoun County who are just a great resource to the community that we're serving. You get to do a spotlight if you're a level 2 sponsor now, because we changed our levels 1 and 2. So that is what a spotlight looks like. You also have the opportunity to host a happy hour. And LSIN, we had someone drop off last month on a last minute. So LSIN decided to host the happy hour for August. It was a great event. And this month we have Nick Bryan with Comfort Keepers, who is going to be hosting our happy hour. So it is the third Wednesday. Just a reminder, it's always the third Wednesday of the month. So look for information about what Comfort Keepers has planned for our happy hour for September. All right. Now I got that off my plate. Any other events that are coming up that we can go back to that? No? All right. Well, thank you. Oh, Gary?
I'll plug our group. Peggy and I are senior research partners. We meet the first and third Thursdays of the month, where they share the Loudoun County Chamber. And anybody who wants to come and visit, it's Rich Coffee, 8:45 to 10 o'clock. Everybody in our group works with the agent. Great network group, great opportunity to do your elevator thing. So if you can show up, just show up. Go ahead, RSVP. 8:45 to 10. Rich talk about tomorrow and third
Thursday, first and third. Thank you, Gary. Wear different hats on different days, but yeah. So our lead share is great, and it focuses on senior living. So we are looking for some members, case managers, lawyer, actually, hospice. So all of those, lot of seats, and of course we're just trying to grow. We're just trying to grow. We just want to be a great resource in that capacity for Loudoun County. So both LSIN and our lead share focus on supporting. Yay, now the fun part, yay. Because we're back in person, we actually have 2 giveaways today. Gonna get Amy to pick the first one. Oh, it's a $25 Starbucks gift card. Drum roll. Crystal. Coffee works too in the morning when you're stuck behind burning cars. All right. That's what happened to us this morning, yeah. All right, second one, which is a bottle of wine and
A little gift card from Capital Care and Health for
Super Top. Ooh, and wine. Ooh. Ed, well, Ed, you always win something. Oh my gosh, you are under a star. All right, so if we do meet in person next month, I mean, I'm gonna let Tall Oaks provide the giveaway because that's how we did it in the past. So that's it. And I mean, I don't even know what time it is. So stay, mingle a little bit in here, not out there. And then I'll see you guys hopefully at the happy hour. Yes, join the Facebook group.
Thanks, everybody. On Zoom. See you guys later.